Good evening. Thank you for joining us here for KREM 2 News First at 4. I'm Whitney Ward. We begin tonight with the latest in the ongoing fight over a homeless camp along I-90. Spokane City Council President Brian Beggs says he has serious concerns with the sheriff's plans to clear that camp. He believes that officers with SPD should keep their distance. People living at the camp were put on notice on Tuesday when authorities handed out flyers saying the camp is closing soon. Beggs believes that forcing people out without the state's permission could result in lawsuits against the city, the county, and even individual officers. That's because the camp itself sits on Department of Transportation property. Beggs called an executive closed-door session this afternoon so council members could get advice from the city's legal team. Beggs says he wants to protect Spokane officers from getting involved in what he calls the sheriff's political theater.
But when they know ahead of time that something would be illegal, violating the Fourth Amendment or some other law, and then they do it, even if they do it under orders, they're at real legal jeopardy. So we're trying to protect our officers from getting caught up in the mix.
I don't believe the mayor or her staff would send officers in if our city legal was advising them not to.
Like everybody else, I and the whole community wants Camp Hope to be closed as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. The sheriff keeps talking a big game, but I see that he's promised this 3 times now, and it keeps failing. So I hope the community can ask themselves, is this just another empty promise by the sheriff? And he's a lame duck sheriff and has 1 month left.
Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich has previously said he wants to avoid using law enforcement to clear that camp, but insists he does not need a judge's permission to remove people and tents from that property. And Jules Helping Hands has now filed a restraining order against the Spokane County Sheriff and Spokane Police Chief for their continued activity at the camp and threats to clear it. Julie Garcia with Jules Helping Hands tells us law enforcement is intimidating and harassing people at the camp instead of helping them. Today, the first 4 people from the camp did move into transitional housing at the new Catalyst Project building on Sunset Hill. She expects more to move there in the coming days and weeks.
Well, it's actually impeding the work that we're actually doing. So yesterday when the police came through, our folks start to move into Catalyst today. So we have 4 guests leaving today. We're trying to do paperwork with peer support and with service providers, and every time they come, we have to stop what we're doing. Our day shuts down, everything shuts down.
Julie Garcia is expecting a ruling on the restraining order tonight. There is also a rally planned at the camp tonight at 5 o'clock, and she says they will then move to City Hall for a protest around 6 o'clock. In other news tonight, Moscow police are still looking to speak with the owner of a white Hyundai Elantra that was seen driving near the home where 4 University of Idaho students were killed last month. In an update from police today, the police chief said they've already received so many calls to their tip line, they are now having to direct those calls to an FBI call center. Police are also clarifying that the car they're looking for is not the same one that's seen on recently released body cam footage from a completely unrelated event that same night the students were killed.
So the body cam image that is out there from an officer who was on a call with an alcohol offense does have a white vehicle in it. This is not the vehicle that we are looking for.
Authorities, though, are still looking for this white Hyundai Elantra that looks like this one. They believe whoever was in the car that night could have critical information that could help solve this case. So if you have any information, the tip line number and the email are the same. They're there at the bottom of your screen. The telephone number is 208-883-7180. You can also find that information on our website, krem.com. New at 4 tonight, Spokane police are investigating 2 armed robberies overnight. They both happened between 6 and 7 yesterday evening. The first robbery took place in Riverfront Park near the Howard Street footbridge. A person walking was approached by a group of people. One of them was holding a gun. They demanded the victim's personal items. Then 30 minutes later, a second victim was walking on Main Avenue and says they were approached by 2 people. One of the suspects in that case had a knife, demanded the victim's things, and then swung the knife at them, hitting the victim. We're told the injuries, though, are not life-threatening. Police are now asking for the public for any information about these violent robberies. You're asked to please contact Crime Check. That number is also on our website. Just go to krem.com. In the meantime, Spokane police did arrest 2 juveniles in connection to multiple gun store burglaries that took place over Thanksgiving weekend. They also recovered several of those stolen firearms. Now police are working with Spokane Public Schools on this case. The investigation remains active as they try to identify additional suspects and recover more stolen firearms. The juveniles are suspected of robbing or burglarizing 3 gun stores and then driving a stolen car into all 3 buildings to get access. All right, let's switch gears. Let's talk weather. It's another big story. Snow is in the forecast for tonight. We know it's coming. Spokane could see several inches by tomorrow, probably, if not tonight. So we are going to head now to our chief meteorologist, Jeremy Legoo. Hi, Jeremy.
Hey, Whitney. Parts of town still waiting on the onset of that snow. Other parts going, yep, went just as planned. So it's all where you are here on the South Hill. Still kind of anxiously awaiting it, but as you look up in the mountains, still seeing some of that snow. We do have those winter weather advisories in place. Those will last through noon tomorrow for the impacts of this snow. Pretty widespread, 3 to say 4. Some locations up to about 5, 3 to 5 in low areas off to the north, and about 6 to 10 over parts of the Cascades. So yeah, some serious snow. And if you look, it is kind of moving in already, starting to fill in here in Spokane. It's just kind of stayed north of I-90 thus far. Some of that activity kind of making its way over toward parts of North Idaho, seeing some heavier snow over 4th of July Pass right now. So that snow does continue to fall here in Spokane. We'll start to see some of that heavier stuff within the hour here as our storm spreads in. Continues overnight. Basically, we're going to see the heaviest of it through about midnight. From midnight to about 3 a.m., it starts tapering off. We might get a little stray shower on the backside of this just in time for the morning commute tomorrow, but we should dry out soon thereafter before the next round arrives early Saturday morning. But in the interim, here's what you're going to get. About 3 to 4 in most locations. Spokane, we might start trimming that back down, kind of 2 to 3 in this latest model run, 2 to 3 in Wilbur, and across North Idaho. That's where you're at 3 to 4, 2 to 4, or even 4 to 6 up in Sandpoint. Next few days, a bit of a roller coaster ride. Hear me out on this one. 34 tomorrow, so a lot of that snow turns into a bit of slush. Saturday, morning snow, a little bit of rain in the afternoon, and then snow comes to an end by Sunday.
All right, Jeremy, thank you very much. And as more snow is in the forecast, communities across Spokane and Spokane County still have a lot of thick ice on the ground from last week's storm. Janelle Finch has been checking on neighborhoods this afternoon as they get ready for the next round. Hi, Janelle.
Hi, Whitney. Well, flurries are just beginning here on the South Hill, but with more snow on the way, some people are worried if it's going to cause more problems for streets still seeing slush and ice from last week's snowstorm. We know the city completed its full city plow on Saturday, but homeowners I spoke to today tell me they might beg to differ. The city's top priority roads are main arterials. Streets like Regal on the South Hill and Monroe near Shadle are clear. But once you turn off onto side roads, that's when things get a bit slippery. Brian Anundson says he's lived in the Inland Northwest for 12 years. He says the city's snowplow response has slowed over the last decade. And when streets don't get plowed, he says it can snowball into causing more problems.
The road in front of my house is still covered in snow. Crestline was covered not only in snow, but because it wasn't plowed for a few days after we had the major snowstorm, got covered in a layer of really slick ice. And then when we had the fog, we had some freezing rain, it really became treacherous.
Anundson says he understands the city has a lot of ground to cover in a full city plow, but when streets get left behind or need a second run through, it makes him wonder if the city has enough resources to handle the winter weather. The city says plows have already used nearly 200,000 gallons of liquid de-icer and 400 tons of traction sand, and the city says it's prepared for the rest of the winter season ahead. But if you still feel like your road needs to be cleared off, you can dial 311 to request a plow to come through. Live on the South Hill, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
All right, Janelle, thank you very much. And we also have an update on the 2 WashDOT plows that were hit on Monday morning, which made them then come out of service. The Washington Department of Transportation tweeted out that both plows are now at the mechanics, and those repairs should be finished by early next week. One of those plows, though, was seriously damaged by an accused drunk driver. The other by a driver who was just following too closely and ran into the plow. As a reminder, of course, those plows are on the road tonight and tomorrow and through the weekend. Be aware that you should give them plenty of room and never ever try to pass on the right.